Hey guys, I'm Jamie. Welcome back or to my channel if you're new. I am starting a new series on my channel and it's going to be all-time favorite books. But I have to do this by genre because I have too many all-time favorites. So I'm going to start with YA fantasy. This is just one of my all-time favorite genres, so I think that it's a good place to start for this series. So I'm going to start with the book that kind of got me into this genre. And it's still one of my all-time favorites. It has lasted the test of time, and that is Dance of Thieves. I absolutely adore this book. Obviously it's in my all-time favorites, but when I tell you this has literally everything I love in this genre, it does. Especially with the second book as well. I just feel like it is the perfect duology. It was not missing anything. It was just perfect in my eyes. So this story follows Jace, who is newly like the ruler of his like family's like land that they have been in for like hundreds of years. And then Cassie is going to Jace's family and trying to get them to, I think, like sign some sort of treaty or something. Like they're not following all of the like the queen's like rules or something. So they're kind of on like opposing sides. Like he's trying to stand up for his family and she's trying to like do her job as like one of the queen's soldiers. So that kind of starts their relationship a little rocky because they don't really know if they can trust each other. But with some circumstances they end up having to work together, and it's one of my all-time favorite books for many reasons. I love their relationship. I love how it builds. I love the world building in this. I love all of the characters. Like she does side characters really good in this, like his whole family, like the villain, whatever. I think they're all like pretty fleshed out very well, and so it just makes you just feel so encapsulated in the world very well. Also, I have heard from people that they think this book is a little slow. I read all audiobooks because, as I mentioned in literally pretty much every one of my videos, I'm dyslexic, so that's what I read. But I think this book is beautifully written. I think it's lyrical. I think it's whimsical. I think it's so good. So yeah, it is on this list for a reason. It's like cozy to me. Like I could reread this so many times. Like it will always be one of my all-time favorite books. On to a little more recent favorite, and I literally cannot wait for the second book in this duology to come out. But that is Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong. She wrote These Violent Delights, and this is, I wouldn't say like a spin-off because like the characters from the first series are still like kind of in this, but it's one of the side characters from those books. It's her. She is the main character in this book. This has so many of like my favorite tropes in it. I think that's why I love it so much. But it was also just like such a fun time to read, and like I could not put this book down. Like I'm pretty sure I read it in like one day, if not like 2 days. So yeah, I absolutely adore the characters. This has like a marriage, like a forced marriage almost. Like they're both spies and they have to like get married for an assignment, or pretend that they're married for an assignment. And she is kind of like indestructible, and they're trying to solve this like mystery that's happening. And I just love Chloe Gong's, like her universe, her books. They're amazing. You will have to read like These Violent Delights duology first, but those books are like really good. They're almost on this list, but they're just like not quite like all-time favorites, so they didn't quite make the cut. But this one did. I absolutely adore it. The next one literally comes out on my birthday, so excited about that. I will be reading it that day it comes out. So this one is just one of my all-time favorites. I absolutely adore this book. Now, I'm not going to go into like a lot of detail for every single one of these, just because I honestly love going into books blind. So if somebody's like, it's my favorite, I'll just like read it and see if I enjoy it with like a couple like details. So that's what I try to do when I recommend books. So yeah, hopefully that clears up a little bit of why I'm not like going into too much detail of what the book is about. But onto the third one, because we have a lot of books to go through, and that is The Prison Healer. This one, I don't even know how to like describe this book. The main girl in this book, she is in prison for something that her family did, and so like she kind of like didn't really do anything wrong, but she's there, and she has had to like survive in this prison that is notorious for like people dying in, and she ends up like becoming the prison healer. And I don't know, I love this book so much. I love this whole series, but I think this one and the last one are probably my favorites. But they're such a fun time, and like the twists in this book are great. Some of them might be like a little bit predictable, but it's YA, so like that's kind of notorious for the genre as not being like super surprising. But I also like, I love the romance in this, and I love some of like the side characters too, which I just like love in books. This also has like a little bit of like a competition, but it's like only against herself, because she like claims something, and so she has to like kind of back it up with these like not like quests, but kind of like little competition things. So it is super fun. I need more people to read these and talk about them more, because I love this series so much. And then a really well-known series, we have the Cruel Prince series. I love this series. I love the political intrigue. I love like the super rivals that this book has. So yeah, I don't need to say much about this because again, it's so popular, you probably already know. So yeah, it's just one of my all-time favorites. Next we have a more newer book again. This one came out last year and I absolutely adored it. Me and my friend, we like read it around the same time and we both really loved it, and that is Belladonna. This girl kind of feels like death like follows her, and she kind of feels like she causes people's death sometimes. So after like her caretaker dies, she goes to live with I think like her uncle or her aunt or something like that, and death like follows her, and there is like this mystery at this house of what happened to her aunt. I do think that she goes to her uncle's house, and I think the mystery is like around her aunt. Again, I read this like a year ago, so I don't really remember, but I know there's some sort of mystery at the house that she ends up with, and I love this book, and I loved like the little twist that there was. But yeah, it's just so good. There is also another book in this series coming out, and I'm so excited for that one too. Next, I really don't see anybody talking about this. I have been trying to promote it on my little baby channel, but it is Violet Made of Thorns. I don't even know how to like explain this book. So Violet is like a fortune teller, and she can like actually tell the future, but the king kind of has her under control, where he only wants her like saying certain like prophecies and stuff. And so when there is this prophecy around the prince, kind of like they have this sort of like rivalry-esque relationship, like her and the prince, and I absolutely adore it. I don't know, this book is just like stuck with me. I need to reread it, but I really loved it when I did read it last year. It's just such a fun time, and like it was very different to like what I have read in the past, so it was really enjoyable, and I love this cover. I actually have 3 editions of this book because that's what I do with my favorite books. I just collect different editions. But this book was just such a fun time, and I love the relationship with her and the prince, so I have to read it to see what happens. Next we have a really new addition to my all-time favorites, and that is Divine Rivals. I literally adored this book. I did in fact read this book in one sitting. I had such a fun time. The ending though, I literally cannot wait for book 2. Like maybe if you haven't read this, read it closer to when book 2 is coming out, and actually book 2 is coming out sooner than we thought, which is super exciting. This is about rivals of like a newspaper, like they're both like fighting for this job. This is also set during a war, so there's a war going on, and they actually end up both being, actually I don't want to say that, I don't want to spoil anything, but they are rivals working for the same newspaper, and there's also like some magical realism elements that I just love so much. So yeah, this book, literally a new all-time favorite YA fantasy. Was so good. And this is like a more like mature YA, like it's definitely in the YA genre, but it doesn't feel like you're reading YA, if that makes sense. So definitely pick this up. It was so good. So yeah. Next, I could probably put like the whole Throne of Glass series on this list, but I'm only gonna mention 2 books and specifically like 1 book. So yeah, my favorite of the series is Empire of Storms, specifically like 2 characters, like POVs, or maybe like 3. I do love all of them. Like, I literally will probably reread this book the most just because I think that it's the best one in the series. I mean, Kingdom of Ash is really good too, but I think this one is my favorite. And yeah, I don't know much to say. I feel like most people know what this book is about. I don't want to take up my time talking about the really popular ones. Next, we have another super popular fantasy duology, but I do want to mention it because it is on my list of all-time favorites, so I did have to mention it, and that is Six of Crows. I love this book. I love this one. I love the second one. I love them so much. The crows have such a special place in my heart. So yeah, this one had to make the list, and I just like love a heist book, and I love heist movies, so this one is just so good. And then actually a book that I think is a lot like Six of Crows in like the heist sort of element, or like the trying to take over a certain like figure. I think it's very similar vibes, but more magic involved, and that is Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. This was my first Brandon Sanderson book, and I absolutely adored it. I need to finish the last book in this series. I've only read the first 2, but I absolutely adore this. This has like a slow burn romance. It has one of the like best magic system I have ever read. It is literally amazing what this man can come up with in his brain, because I could never. But it is so much fun to read, and yeah, it definitely gives me like the same vibe as Six of Crows. So if you love Six of Crows and you want to try Mistborn, I think you will like it. So yeah, it's made my all-time favorite fantasy, YA fantasy. And this like is like, I consider it YA fantasy. I know some people consider it like adult fantasy, but it's not like, nothing crazy is like happening, so I definitely consider it a YA fantasy. So that's why it is on this list and not my normal fantasy list. But all that being said, I absolutely adore Mistborn, and I love all of the characters. They are amazing. And then last, but definitely not my least favorite on this list, is The Ballad of Never After. I literally adore this book with my whole heart. Jax and Evangeline are some of my all-time favorite characters. I love them so much, and if they do not get a happy ending in the 3rd book, I'm going to cry. I did cry at the end of this book because of how beautifully written it is, and the ending of it was absolute torture to read. But I am not complaining, because this book, oh my gosh, this is like a YA fantasy, but the romance in this is like, the angst in it and like the longing for each other is just like so potent that it just like, it makes me like have butterflies in my stomach, because I love them so much and I just want them to be happy. So yeah, I need to reread this before the 3rd book comes out. I do have like some more time to do that, but if you like read the first one and you're like, I'm unsure if I want to finish it, when I'm telling you the first one was like 4.5 stars for me, this one is like 6 stars, 10 stars out of 5, like literally one of my favorite YA fantasies. I just love it so much. There's like nothing for me to critique about it. I just loved it so much. Like, I don't know what else to say. That is all of my favorite YA fantasies. And yeah, let me know your favorite YA fantasy below, especially if it's not on this list, so that I can check it out if I haven't read it yet. And yeah, let me know if you've read any of these and if they're on your favorite list. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys!